My husband Andre had no idea that while he was busy trying to impress the billionaire sitting across from us, I was busy calculating exactly how I would destroy him. The crystal chandelier above our table at Le Bernardin shimmered, casting a fractured light over the untouched plate of scallops in front of me. "Sienna, don't chew so loud. You are embarrassing me." Andre hissed the words under his breath, his hand squeezing my thigh hard enough to leave a bruise. I froze. I hadn't even taken a bite yet. I looked at him. My husband of 5 years, the man I had put through business school, the man whose designer suit was paid for by the very woman he was currently kicking under the table. He turned his $1,000,000 smile back to Mr. Ramirez, the Mexican logistics tycoon he was desperate to sign a contract with. Andre leaned in, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper, switching effortlessly into Spanish. "Do not mind her, Mr. Ramirez. My wife is beautiful to look at, but she is, how do you say, simple. I only bring her along for decoration. She has the intellectual capacity of a distracted child." Mr. Ramirez looked at me, his dark eyes narrowing slightly. He took a sip of his wine. "Is that so?" Andre laughed, a hollow, sycophantic sound. "Oh, yes. She thinks logistics is a type of makeup brand. She has no idea what we are discussing. She is just a domestic creature." My heart didn't break. That is the thing about betrayal. It doesn't break your heart when you have been expecting it. It just turns it into ice. I kept my face perfectly still. A mask of polite confusion. I blinked my eyes innocently, tilting my head just like the distracted child he claimed I was. Andre didn't know that I had spent my childhood summers in Mexico City with my grandmother. He didn't know that I was fluent in 3 languages. And he certainly didn't know that the mysterious CEO of Terra Logistics, the rival company that had been stealing his market share for the last 2 years, was sitting right next to him. Before I tell you exactly how I made him regret every single syllable of that sentence, let me know where you are watching from in the comments below. And if you have ever been underestimated by a partner who thought they were the prize hit, that like and subscribe button. You are going to want to see how this ends. The waiter arrived to pour more vintage Cabernet. I watched the dark red liquid swirl in the glass. It looked like blood. "So, Sienna," the voice cut through my thoughts like a serrated knife. It was Brittany, my sister-in-law. She was sitting next to her husband, Kevin, Andre's younger brother. Brittany was the kind of woman who used passive aggression as a competitive sport. She flipped her blonde hair over her shoulder and gave me a pitying smile. "Andre tells me you are still working that little admin job at the dental clinic. That must be so hard for you, watching successful people all day while you just file papers." I picked up my water glass. "It pays the bills, Brittany." She laughed, looking at Mr. Ramirez as if to include him in the joke. "Oh, honey, let's be honest. It pays for your gas money. Andre pays the bills. You are so lucky he is generous. Most men in his position wouldn't want a wife who brings nothing to the table but well herself." I felt the heat rising in my chest. Not shame, anger, pure, unadulterated rage. I wanted to tell her that the dental clinic job was a cover, that I had quit 3 years ago, that the admin work I did on my laptop at home was actually managing a global supply chain that moved 40,000 shipping containers a month. I wanted to tell her that the diamond earrings she was wearing were bought with money Andre had borrowed from our joint savings account money that I had put there. "Actually, Brittany, I started a side project recently. I think it has potential." Andre slammed his wine glass down. The sound echoed in the quiet dining room. "Sienna, stop. Nobody wants to hear about your little Etsy knitting hobby or whatever it is. We are trying to have a serious conversation about global markets here." He turned to Mr. Ramirez, his expression apologetic. "I apologize, sir. My wife has a vivid imagination. She thinks selling homemade coasters is a business." Mr. Ramirez didn't smile. He looked at me, a flicker of curiosity in his gaze. "Every empire starts somewhere, Andre. What is this project, Mrs. Washington?" I opened my mouth to speak, to drop the bomb right then and there, but Andre cut me off, his hand gripping my wrist under the table again, his nails digging into my skin. "Please, let's not bore you with trifles. We were discussing the port expansion in Veracruz. My firm is ready to handle the entire distribution network. We have the capital. We have the manpower." I pulled my wrist away from Andre's grip. I needed a moment. I needed to breathe before I stabbed him with a steak knife. "Excuse me, I need to use the ladies' room." Andre didn't even look at me. He just waved his hand dismissively, like shooing away a fly. "Make it quick. We are ordering dessert soon." I walked through the restaurant, my heels clicking softly on the marble floor. I could feel the eyes of the other patrons on me. They saw a woman in a simple black dress, the wife of a loud, successful businessman. They saw a shadow. I pushed into the opulent restroom and locked the stall door. My hands were shaking. I pulled out my phone. I opened my banking app. Face ID recognized me instantly. The screen loaded. Total balance, $12,542,300.18. I stared at the number. It was calm. It was objective. It was power. I switched apps to my secure email. There was a message from my lawyer, Jameson. Subject acquisition update. Body. The purchase of the commercial building at 405 Lexington is complete. As of tomorrow morning, you are officially the landlord of Andre's company. Do you want me to send the eviction notice now or wait? I typed a quick reply. Wait. I want to deliver it myself. I looked at myself in the mirror. I fixed my lipstick. I adjusted the strap of my dress. The woman staring back at me wasn't a victim. She was a shark circling her prey. I walked back out to the table. They were laughing. Brittany was leaning in close to Mr. Ramirez, probably trying to charm him for free vacation tips. Andre was pouring more wine, his face flushed with the arrogance of a man who thinks he has already won. As I sat down, Mr. Ramirez turned to me. "Mrs. Washington, your husband tells me you have never traveled outside of the U.S. That is a shame. Mexico is beautiful this time of year." He said it in English, but then he switched. He looked right into my eyes and spoke in rapid, complex Spanish. It must be difficult living with a man who talks so much but says so little. It was a test. I knew it was a test. He suspected. I felt the words rolling on my tongue. I wanted to answer him. I wanted to say, "Yes, it is exhausting, especially when he is spending my money to buy you this dinner." But Andre slammed his hand on the table. "English, please, Mr. Ramirez. I told you she doesn't understand. You are wasting your breath. She barely understands English half the time." Brittany giggled. "It's true. We tried to teach her to say Gracia once at a taco truck, and she butchered it. It was hilarious." She reached for the wine bottle, her eyes glinting with malice. "More wine, Sienna. Or have you had enough? You know how emotional you get when you drink. We don't want a scene." She pretended to pour wine into my glass, but her hand slipped. The heavy carafe tilted too far. A wave of dark red Cabernet splashed across the table, soaking the white tablecloth and splashing onto my chest. "Oops." Brittany covered her mouth with a manicured hand. Her eyes were not sorry. They were laughing. "Oh my God, Sienna, you should have moved your glass." "Look what you made me do," Andre groaned, throwing his napkin down. "For God's sake, Sienna, can you not do anything right? You are clumsy. You are messy. Look at you. You look like a disaster." I looked down at the red stain spreading across my chest. It was cold and wet. I didn't move my glass. "Brittany." "You poured it on me." Brittany gasped, clutching her pearls. "How dare you? I was trying to serve you. Andre, are you going to let her speak to me like that, after I tried to be nice?" Andre turned on me, his face twisted in a snarl. "Apologize to her, now." I looked at him. The restaurant had gone quiet. People were watching. This was it, the public humiliation layer. He wanted to break me in front of his billionaire client. He wanted to show Mr. Ramirez that he was the alpha, the man who could control his unruly woman. I said, "Apologize, Sienna. You are ruining the night. You are ruining the deal." I stood up slowly. I picked up a napkin and dabbed at my chest. "No." The word hung in the air. Andre blinked as if he couldn't process the sound. "Excuse me," I said. "No, I won't apologize. And I think I'm done with dinner." I grabbed my clutch. "Mr. Ramirez, it was a pleasure meeting you." I turned to walk away. "Sit down." Andre's voice was a bark. He grabbed my arm again hard. "You do not walk away from me. You sit down, you shut up, and you wait until I am finished. Do you understand who pays for your life, Sienna? Do you understand that without me, you are nothing? You are a broke, pathetic little admin who would be living in a cardboard box if I didn't take pity on you." He was shouting now. The manager was walking toward us. I looked at his hand on my arm, then I looked at his face. "Let go of me, Andre." He didn't let go. He squeezed harder. "Not until you apologize." "Sir, is there a problem here?" The manager, a tall man with a French accent, stood at our table. Andre released me, smoothing his jacket, instantly composing himself. "No problem. Just a domestic dispute. My wife is a little hysterical. She's off her medication. We are just leaving. Check, please." He glared at me. "You wait by the car. We will discuss your behavior at home." I walked to the front of the restaurant, but I didn't go outside. I stood by the host stand watching. The waiter brought the black leather folder with the bill. It must have been at least $2,000. The wine alone was $500. Andre pulled out his Platinum American Express card. The black one, the one he flashed at every club and bar in the city, the one he told everyone was a perk of his executive status. He didn't know that the card was a supplementary card linked to my private account. He didn't know that while I was in the bathroom, I had opened my banking app and toggled a little switch that said freeze card. He placed the card in the folder with a flourish, not even looking at the total. He continued talking to Mr. Ramirez, laughing, trying to salvage the mood. The waiter took the folder. He walked to the terminal. I watched him swipe it. He frowned. He swiped it again. He typed something in. He swiped it a third time. He walked back to the table. I saw Andre's smile fade. "Sir, I'm sorry." The card was declined. Andre laughed nervously. "That's impossible. Try it again. It's a platinum card. There is no limit." "I tried 3 times, sir. It says do not honor." Brittany leaned in, whispering loud enough for the next table to hear. "Maybe you forgot to pay the bill, Andre. Or maybe Sienna spent too much on shoes again." Andre's face turned a deep shade of crimson. He could feel Mr. Ramirez watching him. He dug into his wallet and pulled out another card. A Visa. Key. "Try this one." I had frozen that one too. The waiter came back 30 seconds later. "Declined, sir." Sweat broke out on Andre's forehead. He checked his phone. "I don't understand. The bank must be having a system error. This is ridiculous." "Do you know who I am?" The manager stepped in. "Sir, if you cannot pay, we will have to call the police. This is a very expensive meal." Andre looked around frantically. Kevin and Brittany were looking down at their laps. They didn't have that kind of money. They were leeches, not providers. Then Andre saw me standing by the door. "Sienna." He waved me over. I walked slowly back to the table. "Give me your cash." "What?" "Give me the cash in your purse." "I know you just cashed your paycheck. It was my grocery money for the month, $600. Andre, that's for food. Give it to me." He snatched my purse from my shoulder. He ripped it open, dumping the contents onto the table. Lip gloss, tampons, keys, and a wad of $20 bills spilled out onto the white tablecloth next to the wine stain. He grabbed the money. He counted it. "It's not enough." "It's only $600. He looked at me with pure hatred. "You useless woman. You can't even carry enough cash to be useful in an emergency." He turned to Mr. Ramirez. "I am so sorry. I seem to have left my main wallet in the car. Could you perhaps cover this? I will wire you the money first thing in the morning." The humiliation was total. The man who had spent the last 2 hours bragging about his wealth was now begging his client to pay for his dinner. Mr. Ramirez stood up. He buttoned his jacket. He didn't look angry. He looked disappointed. He threw a platinum card on the table. "I will pay." "Thank you. Thank you," Andre stammered. But Mr. Ramirez continued, his voice cold. "I do not think we will be doing business together, Andre. I do not trust a man who cannot manage his own dinner, let alone a global supply chain. And I definitely do not trust a man who treats his wife like a servant." He looked at me, gave a small nod of respect, and walked out. Silence descended on the table. Brittany was pale. Kevin was checking his phone. Andre sat there staring at the tablecloth. His big deal was gone. His reputation was shattered. Slowly, he turned his head to look at me. His eyes were black holes. "You did this." He whispered it, but it sounded like a scream. "You jinxed it. You with your bad attitude and your ugly dress. You cost me millions." He stood up, grabbing my arm and dragging me toward the exit. "Get in the car." When we get home, you are going to learn a lesson about respect, and then you are going to figure out how to fix this, even if you have to sell that piece of junk car of yours." I got in the car. I sat in the passenger seat as he drove like a maniac, screaming and pounding the steering wheel. I didn't say a word. I just looked out the window at the passing city lights. He thought he was taking me home to punish me. He thought he still had the power. He didn't know that my phone was currently recording every threat he made, and he didn't know that the home we were driving to wasn't his anymore. I had bought the mortgage note that morning. The eviction notice was already in the mail. "Drive fast," Andre, I thought to myself as a small smile touched my lips. "Enjoy the ride, because you're about to crash." The vibration of my phone against the nightstand didn't wake me up. I was already awake, staring at the ceiling, the events of the dinner with Mr. Ramirez replaying in my mind like a bad movie on loop. But when the screen lit up at 6:00 a.m., the soft blue light signaled the beginning of a nightmare I hadn't prepared for. I rolled over and picked up the phone, expecting a spam email or a weather alert. Instead, it was a notification from First National Bank. "Alert, large transfer detected." My heart skipped a beat. I unlocked the phone, my fingers trembling slightly. I tapped on the app. The little wheel spun for a second that felt like an hour. Then the balance flashed on the screen. $0. I sat up, the sheets pooling around my waist. That account wasn't my secret billionaire fund. That was the joint savings account Andre and I shared. But more importantly, it was the account where I had parked the $25,000 I had saved specifically for my mother's home renovation. Her roof was leaking. The contractors were supposed to start on Monday. I scrolled down to the transaction history. Transfer to A. Washington, 3:42 a.m. Amount $25,000. Andre. He had drained it. He had waited until I was asleep, unlocked my phone using my face while I was unconscious, or maybe he had just guessed the password. It didn't matter how. What mattered was that the money for my mother's safety was gone. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. The time for tears was over. I threw the covers off and marched out of the bedroom, down the hall, to the guest room where Andre had been sleeping since the fight at the restaurant. The door was open. He was already up, standing in front of the mirror, whistling, as if he hadn't just committed grand larceny against his own wife. I stood in the doorway, clutching my phone. "Where is it, Andre?" He didn't jump. He didn't even turn around. He just continued adjusting his silk tie, looking at his reflection with admiration. "Good morning to you too, Sienna. You look terrible. Did you hardly sleep?" I walked into the room, holding the phone up to his face. The $25,000. The money for my mother's roof. "Where is it?" Andre finally turned. He sighed, a sound of exaggerated patience, as if he were explaining quantum physics to a toddler. "Relax, Sienna. It's not gone. It's just reallocated." Reallocated. I stepped closer, my voice dropping to a dangerous whisper. "That money wasn't ours to reallocate. It was for my mother. It took me 2 years to save that on my admin salary." Andre laughed. He actually laughed. He walked over to the dresser and picked up his gold cufflinks. "And that is exactly the problem, isn't it? It took you 2 years. You think so small, Sienna. You think in pennies. I think in investments." He fastened the cufflink, snapping it shut with a sharp click. "I loaned the money to Brittany. The air left my lungs. You did what Brittany," he repeated slower this time. "She has a brilliant business concept, a high-end nail boutique in the city center. She needed capital for the lease. I gave it to her. I felt dizzy. You gave my mother's roof money to your sister-in-law for a nail salon? After she humiliated me last night, after she poured wine on me." Andre rolled his eyes. "Oh, get over it. It was an accident. And Brittany is family. We help family. Besides, she's going to pay us back with interest. This is how wealth is built, Sienna, not by hoarding cash under a mattress like a peasant, but by investing." I stared at him. The gaslighting was so brazen it was almost impressive. He was stealing from me and calling it a favor. "That was not your money to invest, Andre. Put it back. Now." He grabbed his jacket, shrugging it on. "I can't. It's already wired. She signed the lease this morning." He stepped closer to me, looking down with a sneer, and stop looking at me like I'm a villain. If you were actually contributing to this marriage financially, if you had a real career instead of that dead-end job, I wouldn't have to scramble for liquidity. I wouldn't have to move funds around. You forced my hand, Sienna. This is your fault. My fault. Yes, if you made more money, I wouldn't have to take yours. Think about that today while you're filing papers. He patted my cheek. It took every ounce of my self-control not to break his finger. I'm leaving. I have a meeting with a new client. Don't wait up. He walked past me, the scent of his expensive cologne trailing behind him like a toxic cloud. I heard the front door close. I stood there for a full minute listening to the silence of the house. He thought he had won. He thought I was powerless. He was wrong. I didn't go to work. I went to the closet and put on my sharpest blazer. Then I got in my car and drove straight to the luxury apartment complex downtown, the one where Brittany and Kevin lived rent-free thanks to Andre paying their bills for the last 6 months. I parked my Honda Civic between a Porsche and a Mercedes. The valet looked at my car with disdain, but I didn't care. I marched into the lobby, breezed past the concierge who knew me as Andre's wife, and took the elevator to the penthouse floor. I didn't knock. I knew the code. Andre used the same code for everything. 1, 2, 3, 4. The door beeped and unlocked. I pushed it open. Brittany was sitting on the white leather sofa surrounded by shopping bags. She was wearing a silk robe sipping an iced latte. When she saw me, she didn't look scared. She looked annoyed. Sienna, do you know what calling ahead means? Or is that not a thing in the hood? I walked straight into the living room. My eyes scanned the space, and then I saw it. Sitting on the coffee table right next to her latte was a black quilted bag with a gold chain, a Chanel classic double flap, medium size, caviar leather. I knew exactly how much that bag cost. $10,000. I looked at the other bags. Gucci, Louis Vuitton, Jimmy Choo. There was no lease. There was no nail boutique. You went shopping, I said, my voice flat. Brittany followed my gaze. She smiled, reaching out to stroke the leather of the Chanel bag. Isn't she beautiful? Andre has such good taste. He told me to treat myself. He said I looked stressed yesterday. You bought this with my mother's money. Brittany laughed, a harsh, tinkling sound. Oh, stop being dramatic. It's Andre's money. He's the man. He earns it. You just exist. She stood up, tightening her robe. Look, Sienna, I know you're jealous. It must be hard being the ugly duckling of the family. But let's be real. You wouldn't know what to do with that money anyway. You'd probably buy something tacky or fix that rundown shack your mother lives in. She picked up the Chanel bag and slung it over her shoulder, posing in front of the mirror. Andre needs his family to look the part. He can't have us looking like beggars. I'm doing him a favor. I'm building his brand. When people see me with this bag, they know the Washington family is successful. You should be thanking me. My hands balled into fists at my sides. The urge to snatch the bag and rip it apart was overwhelming. But I stopped myself. Physical violence would get me arrested. That's what she wanted. She wanted the angry black woman to come out so she could call the police and play the victim. I took a deep breath. So there is no nail salon, Brittany smirked. We're looking at locations, but first a CEO needs a wardrobe. Now, if you don't mind, I have a massage scheduled in 20 minutes. You can see yourself out. Oh, and Sienna. She looked me up and down. Try to buy a new pair of shoes. Those flats are embarrassing. I looked at her one last time. I memorized the smirk. I memorized the way she held the bag bought with my mother's security. Enjoy the bag, Brittany, I said softly. It cost you everything. I turned and walked out. I rode the elevator down in silence. My reflection in the metal doors looked calm, but inside a nuclear reactor was melting down. They had crossed the line. They hadn't just disrespected me. They had stolen from my mother. They had taken the food out of her mouth to buy leather and gold. I walked out to my car. The sun was shining, but the world looked gray. I sat in the driver's seat and pulled out my phone. My hands weren't shaking anymore. They were steady, stone-cold steady. I dialed a number I had on speed dial. Jameson. He answered on the first ring. Mrs. Washington, I didn't expect to hear from you so early. Is everything all right? No, Jameson. Everything is not all right. I watched Brittany walk out of the lobby wearing her new bag, laughing on the phone. I want you to activate Plan B. There was a pause on the line. Jameson's voice shifted. He wasn't the friendly advisor anymore. He was the shark I paid him to be. Are you sure, Sienna? Once we execute Plan B, there is no going back. This is the nuclear option. I watched Brittany get into an Uber Black. I am sure. I want you to buy the building. The office building, Jameson asked. The one Andre works in? Yes. 405 Lexington. I want the deed in my name by the end of the business day. Offer them 20% above market value if you have to. Just get it done. Understood. And what are your instructions once we own it? I started the engine of my old Honda. I want to be the landlord Jameson. I want to own the ground he walks on. And tomorrow morning, I want to raise the rent. I hung up the phone. Andre wanted to play games with money. He wanted to talk about investments and real estate. Fine. I pulled out of the parking lot. School is in session, Andre, and the tuition is going to be expensive. The smell of rosemary and roasted garlic hit me the moment I opened the heavy oak front door. It was disorienting. For a second, I thought I had walked into the wrong house. The last time I saw my husband, Andre, he was storming out the door, hurling insults about my salary and threatening to sell my car. Now the house smelled like a Martha Stewart Thanksgiving special. I closed the door behind me and locked it. The click of the deadbolt sounded loud in the quiet hallway. I walked into the kitchen, my heels clicking on the imported Italian tile that I had paid for 3 years ago. There he was, Andre, wearing an apron over his dress shirt sleeves rolled up to his elbows, chopping parsley with a rhythm that suggested he hadn't a care in the world. A bottle of expensive Pinot Noir was breathing on the counter next to 2 crystal glasses. He looked up and smiled. A genuine, warm smile. The kind of smile he used to give me when we were dating. The kind of smile that used to make my knees weak, but now just made my stomach turn. Hey, babe, you are home early. He wiped his hands on a towel and walked over to kiss my cheek. I stood stiff as a board, letting his lips brush my skin. He smelled of wine and expensive cologne, masking the scent of the betrayal from this morning. I made dinner. Roasted lamb chops with truffle mash, your favorite. I looked at the food. It did look perfect. Andre was a good cook when he wanted something. That was his pattern. He would slash your tires and then offer to drive you to work so you would feel grateful. What is this, Andre? I didn't smile back. I dropped my purse on the counter next to the wine. He chuckled, pouring the wine into the glasses. Can a husband not cook a nice meal for his wife? I know things got heated yesterday and this morning. I was stressed. The deal with Ramirez falling through really messed with my head. I shouldn't have taken it out on you. He handed me the glass. I am sorry, Sienna. Truly. I took the glass, but I didn't drink. I watched the liquid settle. He was apologizing. That was new. Andre never apologized unless he had a motive, unless he needed something that cost more than a verbal sorry. My hand instinctively went to the pocket of my blazer. I felt the small rectangular shape of my digital voice recorder. I slid my thumb over the switch and felt the tiny vibration that told me it was recording. It is okay, Andre. I lied. My voice was soft. I needed to play along. I needed to see what game he was playing before I flipped the board. Let's eat. We sat at the dining table. The mood was eerily pleasant. Andre talked about the weather, about a podcast he listened to, about everything except the $25,000 he stole, or the fact that I had just spent the afternoon buying the building his office was in. I ate small bites watching him. He was excited. There was a manic energy beneath his calm demeanor. He kept refilling my glass, even though I hadn't taken a sip. Finally, after he finished his lamb, he wiped his mouth with the linen napkin and cleared his throat. The shift in the air was instantaneous. The temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. Sienna, I have been doing some thinking about our future, about us. I put my fork down. Here it comes. Oh, yes, you know I love you, right? And I want to build an empire for us, for our future children. He reached under the table and pulled out a manila envelope. He placed it on the table between us. It looked heavy. I had a long meeting with my financial advisor today. We were looking at ways to recover from the Ramirez loss and pivot to something bigger. There is a massive investment opportunity in commercial real estate. A venture capital firm is willing to back me, but I need to show collateral." He slid the envelope toward me. I opened it. Inside was a thick stack of legal documents. I scanned the first page. Post-nuptial asset restructuring agreement. I turned to the second page. My eyes locked on the paragraph highlighted in yellow. Transfer of title. He wanted me to sign over the deed to this house, the house we were sitting in, the house my grandmother left me the money to buy, the house that was currently in both our names but was legally my separate property if I could prove the source of funds. He wanted full sole ownership. I looked up at him. "You want me to sign the house over to you?" Andre nodded, his eyes wide and earnest. "It is just a formality, babe. See, the banks look at your credit score and your job history and they hesitate. You are an admin Sienna. You make $30,000 a year. Your debt-to-income ratio looks bad on paper. It drags down our borrowing power." He leaned in, his voice dropping to a whisper. "If I hold the title solely, my credit score combined with my executive status allows me to pull out $1 million in equity. We can use that money to invest. We can double it in 6 months. I looked back at the paper. "So you want to take the only asset I have my name on and put it in your name so you can gamble with the equity?" Andre sighed, looking disappointed. "It is not gambling, Sienna. It is leverage. This is how rich people think. You are thinking like a poor person again. You are thinking about ownership when you should be thinking about liquidity." He reached across the table and covered my hand with his. "Trust me, I am the businessman here. I know what I'm doing. You just need to sign the paper so I can take care of us. Once the deal closes, I will put your name back on the title. I promise." I stared at his hand. He was lying. I knew property law. I knew that once I signed a quitclaim deed, I was giving up everything. He could sell the house the next day, and I would be on the street with nothing. And he had the audacity to use my job title, the job title I faked to protect his fragile ego against me. "Andre, I can't do that. This house is our safety net. If the investment fails, we lose everything." Andre withdrew his hand. The warm, loving husband mask flickered. "It won't fail. Why do you always doubt me?" "I am not doubting you. I am being prudent. The market is volatile. And honestly, Andre, after you took the money from the savings account this morning without asking, I am not comfortable signing over the house." I pushed the envelope back toward him. "No." Silence. Total, absolute silence. Andre stared at the envelope. Then he looked at me. The warmth was gone. The eyes that had been looking at me with affection were now cold, dead shark eyes. He didn't just get angry, he transformed. He stood up slowly, pushing his chair back. The legs of the chair scraped against the floor like a scream. He walked around the table until he was standing right behind me. I could feel his heat. I could feel the threat radiating off him. He leaned down and whispered in my ear, "You are a selfish, ungrateful little bitch." I didn't flinch. I kept my eyes forward, staring at the unlit candle on the table. "I put food on this table. I put clothes on your back. I tolerate your mediocrity. I tolerate your stupidity. And when I ask for one thing, one simple signature to save this family, you say no." He slammed his hand down on the table right next to my plate. The silverware rattled. "Sign the paper, Sienna." I turned to look at him. I said, "No, Andre. I am not signing away my home." He laughed. It was a dark, ugly sound. "Your home. This isn't your home. You didn't earn this. You just exist here. And if you think you have a choice, you are delusional." He walked over to the sideboard and poured himself another glass of wine, his back to me. "If you don't sign that paper by tomorrow morning, I am filing for divorce." My heart hammered against my ribs. Not because I was scared of the divorce, but because he was finally saying it. "Fine," I said, my voice steady. "Then file for divorce. We can split the assets fairly." He spun around, glass in hand. "Fairly? You think you will get anything fairly?" He took a step toward me, pointing a finger. "I have already spoken to a lawyer. If we divorce, I am going to destroy you. I will tell the court about your instability." "My instability?" "Yes. The way you screamed at the restaurant last night, the way you attack my family. I will paint a picture of a jealous, unhinged woman who is mentally unfit." He smirked. Brittany has friends in social services. If we have kids, I will get full custody. But since we don't, I will just make sure you leave this marriage with nothing but the debt. I will ruin your credit so bad you won't be able to rent a basement apartment. I will make you look like a gold digger who trapped a successful man and then went crazy." He took a sip of wine, watching the fear he thought he was instilling in me. "Who do you think the judge will believe, Sienna? The successful vice president of sales in a customized suit? Or the angry black woman who works as a receptionist and can't even speak proper Spanish?" He walked back to the table and tapped the paper. "You have no power here. You are a liability. I am trying to turn you into an asset. This is your last chance to be useful." He leaned in close, his face inches from mine. "Sign the paper, or get out of my house." I looked at him. I looked at the man who had promised to love and cherish me. He was gone. Or maybe he never existed. This monster standing in front of me, threatening to gaslight me into homelessness, was the real Andre. He wanted a war. He wanted to use the legal system to crush me. He didn't know that the legal system was my playground, but I couldn't let him know that yet. If I fought back now, he would be on guard. He would hide assets. He would slow me down. I needed him to think he had won. I needed him to think I was broken. I let my lower lip tremble. It wasn't hard. The adrenaline was making my whole body shake. I looked down at my lap, letting my shoulders slump. I forced tears into my eyes, thinking about my grandmother, who worked 2 jobs to buy the first version of this house. "Andre, please." He didn't soften. He crossed his arms. "Sign it." "I can't lose you, Andre," I whispered. "I don't want a divorce. I don't want to be alone." "Then do what you are told," he said, cold as ice. I reached for the pen he had placed next to the envelope. My hand shook visibly. I looked up at him, tears streaming down my face. "If I sign this, will you promise everything will go back to normal? Will you promise not to leave me?" Andre smiled. It was the smile of a predator who had just caught the rabbit. "Of course, baby. Once you sign this, we are partners again. I will take care of everything." I touched the pen to the paper. Then I stopped. I need to get the original deed. It is in the safety deposit box at the bank downtown. I can't transfer the title without the original certificate attached. The notary will require it. Andre frowned. "You don't have it here?" "No. I put it in the box for safekeeping last year." "Remember." I didn't wait for him to answer. "I can go first thing in the morning. I promise. Just give me 2 days. The bank is closed tomorrow for the holiday. I can get it Monday morning." I looked at him, pleading with my eyes. "Please, Andre, I will sign it Monday. Just don't file the papers." Andre studied my face. He looked for any sign of deception. But all he saw was a crying, terrified wife who was afraid of losing her status. He relaxed. He took a sip of wine. "Fine. Monday morning. First thing." He reached out and stroked my hair possessively. "See? Was that so hard? Being a good wife means trusting your husband." He picked up the envelope and the pen. "I am going to finish this wine in the study, clean up the kitchen, and Sienna." He turned in the doorway. "Try to look more presentable tomorrow. We have appearances to keep up." He walked away, whistling again. I sat there for a long time, listening to his footsteps fade. I wiped the tears from my face with the back of my hand. The skin was dry instantly. Monday morning. I looked at the recorder in my hand. I pressed stop. I had him. I had the threat. I had the blackmail. I had the admission of financial coercion. And he had given me 48 hours. He thought I needed 2 days to get a piece of paper. He was wrong. 2 days was exactly enough time for my lawyers to prepare the eviction notice. 2 days was enough time to finalize the purchase of his company's debt. 2 days wasn't a grace period. It was a funeral procession. And Andre was the only one who didn't know he was walking into his own grave. The little red dot on my iPad screen stopped moving. It was blinking steadily at a location that was definitely not the downtown office building where Andre claimed he had a late strategy meeting. I sat in the back of the phantom Rolls-Royce, the leather cool against my skin, and zoomed in on the map. The Golden Stay Motel. It was a roadside establishment off the interstate, the kind of place that rented rooms by the hour and didn't ask for ID. The kind of place where dreams went to die and where marriages ended. I wasn't driving my Honda Civic tonight. I had called a driver from my company's executive fleet. His name was Marcus, a former Navy SEAL who headed my personal security detail. He didn't ask questions, he just drove. "Take me there, Marcus," I said, my voice devoid of emotion. Marcus glanced at me in the rearview mirror. His eyes were kind but professional. "We are 10 minutes away, Mrs. Washington. Do you want me to prepare the extraction team?" "No," I said. "Just us. I don't want a scene. I want confirmation." I looked back at the screen. Andre had told me he was meeting with the investors to fix the mess he made with Mr. Ramirez. He said he would be home late. He kissed me on the forehead and told me not to wait up. He was sloppy. He didn't know that the comprehensive insurance package I bought for his Mercedes included a military-grade GPS tracker. I had installed it 6 months ago, not because I suspected cheating, but because I wanted to protect him if he was ever carjacked. Irony is a cruel mistress. I was protecting him from carjackers, but nobody was protecting me from him. The car glided silently through the dark streets, leaving the manicured lawns of our neighborhood behind, and entering the gritty industrial district. The neon sign of the motel flickered ahead, buzzing with a dying light. There it was, his black Mercedes, parked right in front of room 104, and parked right next to it was a white Range Rover. I knew that car. It belonged to Kevin, my brother-in-law. My stomach churned. It wasn't just a random affair. It wasn't a one-night stand with a stranger. "Pull over here, Marcus. Kill the lights." We parked in the shadows of a defunct gas station across the street. I could see the door to room 104 clearly. The curtains were drawn, but the light was on. I opened my briefcase and took out the parabolic microphone. It was a piece of equipment my company used for corporate espionage defense, capable of picking up conversations through walls from 50 yards away. I put the headphones on. I aimed the dish at the window of room 104. The static hissed for a moment, and then the voices came through crystal clear. It was Brittany. I held my breath. I expected moans. I expected the sounds of passion, but what I heard was far worse. I heard laughter. "Did you see her face?" Brittany's voice was shrill, cutting through the static. "She looked like a lost puppy when you told her about the house. God, she is so pathetic." I adjusted the volume. My hand was shaking, but I forced it to be still. Andre laughed. It was the same laugh he used when he was watching sports. Relaxed. Happy. I had to hold back a smile, he said. When she started crying about her grandmother, I almost lost it. "Oh, Andre, please don't leave me." It was disgusting. She is so desperate to keep me, she will sign anything. I watched the window. I could see their shadows moving against the curtain. "She is going to the bank on Monday to get the deed," Andre said. "Once she signs that transfer, the house is ours. We can take out the equity line of credit by Wednesday. That is a cool $1 million. And then Brittany asked, "And then I file for divorce," Andre said. "I take the money, I kick her out, and we are free." I closed my eyes. The betrayal was absolute. It wasn't just about sex. It was a heist. They were robbing me. "But what about Kevin?" Andre asked. "Does he suspect anything?" Brittany snorted. "Kevin? Please, that man is spineless. He thinks I am at a yoga retreat. He is probably at home right now folding laundry and waiting for me to text him good night. He is so boring, Andre. He isn't a real man like you. He is just safe. Once we get the money from Sienna's house, I am leaving him too. I am taking half of his 401k and leaving him with the cat." They laughed together. It was the sound of two predators congratulating themselves on a kill. "You are wicked," Andre murmured. "And you are a genius," Brittany replied. "I can't wait until we can stop hiding. I want to spend that money. I want to go to Cabo. I want to buy a boat. You will, baby, you will. Just let me handle Sienna. She is dumb. She trusts me. I have her wrapped around my finger. She thinks she is the lucky one to have me. She has no idea she is just a stepping stone." The conversation shifted then, the sounds of clothing rustling, the sounds of intimacy. I took the headphones off. I didn't need to hear the rest. I sat back in the seat. The silence in the Rolls-Royce was heavy. Marcus was looking at me in the mirror. He had heard enough to know the situation. "Mrs. Washington." "I am fine, Marcus." I wasn't fine. I felt like someone had reached into my chest and pulled out my lungs. I looked out the window at the dirty motel. My husband, my brother-in-law's wife. They weren't just cheating. They were conspiring. They were planning to destroy 2 lives for $1 million. They called me dumb. They called Kevin spineless. They thought they were the main characters in this story. I looked down at the recording device. The red light was still on. I had 20 minutes of audio, clear, admissible evidence of conspiracy to commit fraud, evidence of adultery, evidence of malice. I saved the file. I named it The Coffin. I didn't storm into the room. I didn't kick down the door and scream. That is what the old Sienna would have done. The Sienna who worked at the admin desk. The Sienna who loved Andre. But that Sienna died in this car tonight. The woman sitting in the back of the Rolls-Royce was someone else entirely. I looked at my hands resting on my lap. They were manicured now. Soft skin, a diamond ring on my finger. But as I stared at them, I saw the ghost of what they used to be. I remembered 10 years ago. I remembered the small, roach-infested apartment we lived in when Andre was in business school. I remembered standing at the sink of the diner where I worked the night shift. My hands were red and cracked from the hot water and the harsh soap. My back ached from standing for 8 hours. My feet were swollen. I remembered coming home at 2:00 a.m. smelling like grease and old coffee. Andre would be asleep at the desk, his textbook spread out. I would walk over and cover him with a blanket, careful not to wake him. I would kiss his forehead and whisper, "It is worth it. One day we will make it." I remembered eating instant noodles for dinner so I could buy him a decent suit for his first interview. I remembered the shame of borrowing money from my grandmother to pay his tuition when he failed a semester. I did everything for him. I sacrificed my youth, my comfort, my dignity. I built him up brick by brick. I polished him until he shined. I made him a man. And now he was using the confidence I gave him to call me pathetic. He was using the suit I bought him to undress another woman. He called me a stepping stone. The memory of the cracked red skin on my hands faded. My hands were cold now, cold and steady. I didn't feel pain anymore. The grief that had been choking me for the last 2 days evaporated. It was replaced by a clarity so sharp it felt like a blade. If I was a stepping stone, I was going to be the one he tripped over. I was going to be the rock that dragged him to the bottom of the ocean. I looked at the motel door one last time. Enjoy it, Andre. Enjoy her, because it is the last time you will ever feel joy. Marcus, take me home. But before we go, I have one phone call to make. I picked up my phone. I scrolled through my contacts until I found the name. Kevin Washington. I hesitated for a second. Kevin was a good man. He was soft, yes. He was passive, but he was kind. He loved Brittany. He worshipped the ground she walked on. This call was going to destroy him. It was going to break his heart. But he deserved to know. He was the only innocent person in this twisted web besides me. And I needed an ally. I needed someone on the inside who was just as angry as I was. I pressed the call button. It rang once, twice, 3 times. Hello? Kevin's voice was groggy. He sounded like he had been sleeping. Hey, Kevin. It is Sienna. Sienna, is everything okay? It is late. I looked at the time. It was almost midnight. I am sorry to wake you, Kevin, but I need to tell you something, and I need you to listen to me very carefully. There was a rustling sound on the other end. He was sitting up. What is it? Is it Andre? Is he okay? I laughed, a short, bitter sound. Oh, Andre is fine. He is better than fine. Kevin, where is Brittany right now? She is at a yoga retreat in upstate New York. She left this morning. Why? I took a deep breath. Kevin, she is not in New York. What do you mean? I tracked her phone earlier. It was... She spoofed the location, Kevin. She is here, in the city. Silence. Sienna, what are you talking about? I am sitting outside the Golden Stay Motel off I-95. Andre is here too. I let the words hang in the air. I didn't need to say more. Kevin wasn't stupid. He was just in denial. No, That is impossible. Andre is at a meeting. Brittany is... They are in room 104, Kevin. I have been listening to them for the last 20 minutes. I didn't tell him what they said about him yet. I didn't tell him about the plan to steal his 401k. That was ammunition for later. Right now, I just needed him to wake up. I don't believe you. You are crazy. Andre is my brother. Kevin, listen to me. I have a ticket for you. For the gala tomorrow night. The one Andre is going to. Why? Because they are going to be there together. They think we are stupid, Kevin. They think we are blind. I heard his breathing hitch. He was starting to cry. Why are you doing this to me, Sienna? I am not doing this to you. They are doing this to us. I leaned forward, my voice hardening. Stop crying, Kevin. Tears won't help you. Anger will. I am going to send a car for you tomorrow at 6:03 p.m. Put on your best suit, the black tuxedo. Sienna, I can't. Yes, you can. Yes. You have to, because if you don't come, they win. They take your money, they take my house, and they laugh at us. Do you want them to laugh at you, Kevin? Do you want Brittany to tell everyone how weak you are? I heard a sniffle, then silence, then a shift. No. Good. I signaled Marcus to start the car. Get some sleep, Kevin. You are going to need your strength. Tomorrow night we are not the victims. Tomorrow night we are the executioners. I hung up the phone. The Rolls-Royce pulled away from the curb, leaving the dirty motel behind in the dust. I leaned my head back against the seat and closed my eyes. The stage was set. The players were in position. Andre and Brittany thought they were the main attraction. They had no idea that tomorrow night the curtain was going to fall on them. Hard. The doorbell rang at exactly 9 o'clock. It was a sharp, demanding sound that echoed through the tense silence of our living room. I sat on the sofa, my hands folded in my lap, playing the part of the nervous, defeated wife. Andre was pacing back and forth in front of the fireplace, checking his watch every 30 seconds. He was wearing his navy blue power suit, the one he thought made him look like a Wall Street titan. To me, he just looked like a man dressed for his own funeral. Open the door, Sienna, Andre snapped, not breaking his stride. And try not to look so miserable. We are conducting business. I stood up slowly and walked to the door. I knew exactly who was on the other side. It wasn't the local notary from the strip mall that Andre had suggested. It was Mr. Jameson, my corporate attorney. The man who managed my multi-million-dollar portfolio. The man who charged $800 an hour to destroy people's lives legally. But today, he wasn't Mr. Jameson the shark in a three-piece suit. Today, he was wearing a beige cardigan that looked 2 sizes too big, thick glasses that slid down his nose, and he was carrying a battered briefcase. He had even stooped his shoulders to look smaller, less threatening. I opened the door. "Good morning, ma'am," Jameson said, his voice cracking slightly. "I am Mr. Henderson. I am here to notarize the, property documents." I stepped aside. "Please come in, Mr. Henderson. My husband is waiting." Jameson shuffled inside, wiping his feet nervously on the mat. I had to bite the inside of my cheek to keep from smiling. He deserved an Academy Award. Andre marched over, extending a hand, but not really looking at the man. "You're late, Henderson. I have a very important board meeting in an hour." "Let's make this quick. It is 9 o'clock exactly," Sir Jameson mumbled, clutching his briefcase. Andre waved his hand dismissively. "Just set up on the coffee table. I have the documents ready." Andre pointed to the manila envelope lying on the glass table. It was the same envelope he had threatened me with 2 nights ago. The quitclaim deed. The document that would transfer my rights to our home solely to him. Jameson sat down on the edge of the armchair, pulling out a stamp and a logbook. He moved with agonizing slowness, fumbling with his pen, dropping the cap, apologizing profusely. "I am so sorry. Clumsy hands today," Jameson stammered. Andre sighed loud and long. He pulled out his phone and started typing furiously. I knew who he was texting. I could see the reflection of the screen in the glass of the framed artwork behind him. It was Brittany. Text: "The notary is a moron, taking forever. Be there soon, baby." I sat down next to Andre. I needed to be close. I needed to be within striking distance. "Is everything in order, Mr. Henderson?" I asked, my voice trembling just enough to sell the performance. Jameson peered at the papers Andre had laid out. "Yes, Mrs. Washington." It seems to be a standard spousal transfer. You understand that by signing this, you are relinquishing all equity in the property, I know, I whispered, looking down at the floor. Andre scoffed. She knows Henderson. We have discussed it. She is doing it for the good of the family. Just show us where to sign. I looked at the table. The stack of papers was right there. The deed was on top. I needed a distraction. I needed chaos. Can I get anyone some coffee, I asked suddenly, or water? Andre didn't look up from his phone. No, just sign the damn paper. I am feeling a little faint. Andre, I said, standing up. I need some water. I walked to the kitchen. My heart was pounding against my ribs like a trapped bird. This was the moment, the pivot point. I reached into my oversized tote bag that I had left on the kitchen counter. Inside was a manila envelope identical to the one on the coffee table. Same weight, same thickness. But the contents were very different. Instead of a deed transfer, these documents were an assumption of debt liability. It was a binding contract stating that Andre Washington agreed to personally assume full responsibility for the $5 million of toxic debt held by a shell company called Terra Holdings, a shell company that I owned. By signing this, he wouldn't be taking my house. He would be taking my bad debts. He would be legally anchoring himself to a sinking ship. I slid the envelope under the serving tray. I placed a pitcher of water and 3 glasses on top of it. I took a deep breath. Showtime. I walked back into the living room carrying the tray. Here we go, I said softly. I approached the coffee table. Andre was still typing. Jameson was cleaning his glasses. I leaned forward to place the tray down, and then I tripped. It wasn't a big trip, just a stumble. My foot caught on the edge of the rug. The tray tilted. The pitcher of water slid. Oh no, I cried out. The pitcher hit the table with a loud clatter. Ice water flooded across the glass surface, heading straight for Andre's phone and the open logbook. "What the hell are you doing?" Andre screamed, jumping up and scrambling to save his precious phone. Jameson yelped, clutching his logbook to his chest. "I am so sorry. I am so clumsy," I cried, grabbing napkins from the coaster stack and frantically wiping the table. It was pure chaos. Andre was cursing, wiping water off his suit pants. Jameson was standing up, backing away. In the flurry of movement, with Andre distracted by a wet spot on his Italian wool trousers, I made the switch. I swiped the wet envelope off the table with one hand, throwing it into the wastebasket under the side table, and in the same motion, I slid the dry envelope from under the tray onto the table. It took less than 2 seconds. I stood there holding a dripping napkin, looking horrified. "I am so sorry, Andre. I didn't mean to." "You are useless," Andre spat, shaking his head. "You can't even serve water without causing a disaster. Look at this mess." He looked at the table. The papers were dry. The water had missed them by an inch. "Thank God you didn't ruin the documents," he muttered. He sat back down, agitated. "Let's just get this over with before she burns the house down." He pulled the stack of papers toward him. Jameson sat back down, adjusting his glasses. He looked at me. A tiny, almost imperceptible wink behind the thick lenses. He knew. He pushed the document toward Andre. "Since you are the grantee, Mr. Washington, you sign first. Right here on the line marked transferee." Andre didn't read it. He didn't even glance at the title of the page. He was too busy being angry at me. He was too busy thinking about his meeting. He was too busy texting Brittany. He grabbed the pen. "Here," he asked aggressively. "Yes, sir." Andre signed his name with a flourish, a big, bold signature. The signature of a man who thought he was conquering the world. He flipped the page. "And here, yes, sir, initials there." He initialed. "And one more signature on the back page to notarize the transaction." Andre signed again. "Done," he said, capping the pen. He pushed the papers toward me. "Your turn, Sienna. Don't mess it up." I sat down. I looked at the paper. I looked at his signature. It was done. He had just voluntarily signed a contract that would bankrupt him. He had just taken on $5 million of debt. The house was safe. In fact, the house was the least of his problems now. I picked up the pen. I signed my name, not as the victim, but as the witness to his destruction. Jameson stamped the papers with a loud thump. The sound echoed like a gavel in a courtroom. "It is finished," Jameson said, gathering his things. Andre grabbed the folder instantly. He didn't let Jameson file it. He didn't offer a copy. "I will take these," Andre said. "I will file them with the county clerk myself. I don't want any delays." He stood up, clutching the folder to his chest like it was a bag of gold. He had no idea it was a bag of snakes. "Get out," Henderson Andre said to my lawyer. "Send the bill to my office." Jameson nodded, stood up, and scurried to the door. "Good day, Mr. Washington." "Good day, Mrs. Washington." He left. The door closed. Andre let out a whoop of victory. "Yes." He turned to me, his face glowing with triumph. "Finally. You finally did something right, Sienna." He walked over to his briefcase and shoved the folder inside, locking the clasps with a satisfying click. He checked his reflection in the mirror, straightening his tie. "The house is mine. The equity is mine. The future is mine." He walked over to where I was standing. He looked down at me with a mixture of pity and contempt. He reached into his wallet. He pulled out 2 crisp $100 bills. He crumpled them up and threw them at me. They hit my chest and fluttered to the floor. "Here," he said. "What is this?" I asked, staring at the money on the rug. "Dinner," he said. "I'm going to the gala tonight with the partners. Big night, important people. I won't be home until late. Probably very late." He smirked. "Don't wait up. Order yourself a pizza. Buy some ice cream. Cry about it if you want. Just don't call me." He picked up his briefcase. He was leaving. He was going to pick up Brittany. They were going to go to the gala together. They were going to celebrate stealing my house. I felt a cold rage settle in my stomach. It was heavy and solid. I couldn't let him go alone. If I stayed home, I would miss the finale. I would miss the moment the trap snapped shut. I needed to be there. I needed to see his face when the world fell apart. "Wait, Andre." I ran to him, grabbing his arm. I made my eyes wide and desperate. "Please, Andre, don't leave me here alone. Not tonight." He tried to shake me off. Sienna let go. "I told you this is a business event. You don't have a ticket. You don't have a dress. You don't fit in." "I can fit in," I pleaded. "I have that black dress from the funeral. It is nice enough. Please. I just want to see you successful. I want to see you in your element." I stroked his ego. I knew it was his weak spot. I signed the papers. "Andre, I did what you wanted. Just give me this one thing. Let me see my husband be the big important man he is." Andre stopped. He looked at me. He looked at the adoration I was faking. He hesitated, not because he wanted me there, but because he realized something. Brittany was going to be there, yes, but she was going as a colleague. He couldn't be seen holding her hand too openly, and he had a lot of heavy samples to carry. He had his coat. He had his briefcase. He looked at me. He didn't see a wife. He saw a mule. He saw a servant. "Fine," he sighed, rolling his eyes. "Really?" "Yes. But listen to me closely. You are not there to socialize. You are not there to talk to my clients. You are there to hold my things." He pointed a finger in my face. "You walk 3 steps behind me. You hold my coat. You hold Brittany's clutch if she asks you to. You do not speak unless spoken to. You are invisible. Do you understand?" I nodded eagerly. "Yes, Andre. I understand. I will be invisible." "Good." He checked his watch again. "Be ready in 10 minutes. If you are 1 minute late, I leave you behind." He turned and walked toward the garage. I watched him go. I looked down at the $200 on the floor. I didn't pick them up. I walked to the bedroom. I didn't reach for the black funeral dress. I reached into the back of the closet, past the cheap cardigans and the polyester slacks. I reached for the hidden garment bag that I had moved there this morning. I unzipped it just an inch. The fabric inside shimmered. It was silk. It was couture. It was a weapon. I smiled. Andre wanted me to be invisible. He wanted me to be a ghost. Be careful what you wish for, husband, because ghosts are the ones who haunt you, and tonight I am going to be your worst nightmare. The flashbulbs were blinding as we stepped out of the limousine. For a moment, the night turned into day, illuminated by the relentless strobe of paparazzi cameras. Andre stepped out first, buttoning his jacket with a smug satisfaction that made my stomach turn. He reached back not to help me, but to help Brittany. She emerged from the car like she was accepting an Academy Award. Her dress was a sequined red number that was too tight, too short, and screamed desperate attention. She hooked her arm through Andre's, and they posed for the cameras, smiling like the power couple they pretended to be. I climbed out of the car last. No one took my picture. I was wearing a shapeless black dress that hung off my frame like a potato sack. My hair was pulled back in a severe bun, and I wore glasses I didn't need. I looked like the hired help. I looked exactly how Andre wanted me to look. Invisible. "Walk behind us, Sienna," Andre hissed over his shoulder without breaking his smile for the cameras. "And try not to trip over your own feet. We are walking the red carpet. You take the side entrance." He didn't wait for a response. He and Brittany glided forward, basking in the attention. I watched them go. Brittany waved at a photographer who definitely wasn't taking her picture. Andre shook hands with a security guard, thinking he was somebody important. I walked toward the side entrance where the staff and the nobody guests were being funneled. A large man in a black suit with an earpiece stepped in front of me, blocking my path. "Ticket, please," he said, his voice flat. I reached into my purse. It was empty. Andre had the tickets. He had forgotten to give me mine. Or more likely, he had done it on purpose to make me beg the doorman. I looked over at the red carpet. Andre was already at the top of the stairs, laughing at something Brittany whispered. He hadn't even looked back to see if I was following. "My husband has my ticket," I said, keeping my voice calm. "He is the gentleman in the blue suit up there." The guard didn't even look. "No ticket, no entry, ma'am. Step aside." I saw the panic rising in the people behind me, but I didn't move. I didn't wave at Andre. I didn't cause a scene. I simply looked at the camera mounted above the door. I knew who was watching the monitors. Suddenly, the heavy brass doors opened from the inside. A tall, elegant man with silver hair rushed out. It was Henri, the general manager of the hotel, a man who had worked for my grandfather and now worked for me. Henri pushed past the security guard, his face pale. "Mrs. Washington," he said, his voice breathless but low enough that only I could hear. "I am so terribly sorry. Please, come in." The security guard looked confused. "Sir, she doesn't have a—" Henri silenced him with a look that could have cut glass. "Do not speak. Open the rope. Now." The guard scrambled to unhook the velvet rope. Henri ushered me inside, away from the cold, away from the humiliation of the side door. We walked into the lobby. It was a cathedral of marble and gold. "My husband is in the ballroom," I said softly. "I need to get to the VIP dressing room before I join him." "Of course," Madame Henri whispered. "Your team is already there. The item you requested from the vault arrived 10 minutes ago." "Thank you, Henri." I walked toward the elevators. I caught a glimpse of myself in a mirror, a frumpy, sad woman in a black sack. I smiled. This was the last time anyone would ever see this version of Sienna. The next time I walked through this lobby, I would burn the memory of her to the ground. The ballroom was a sea of tuxedos and designer gowns. The air smelled of expensive perfume orchids and ambition. A string quartet was playing something classical in the corner, but it was drowned out by the roar of networking. I found Andre and Brittany near the ice sculpture. They were talking to a group of investors from a rival firm. Or rather, Andre was talking at them while Brittany nodded and laughed too loudly at jokes that weren't funny. "There you are," Andre snapped as I approached. "What took you so long? I had trouble at the door," I said, lowering my head. "Well, don't just stand there," he said, stripping off his heavy wool trench coat. "It is hot in here. Hold this." He dumped the heavy coat into my arms. It weighed a ton. I stood there holding it like a coat check girl. Brittany turned to me. She was holding a champagne flute in one hand and a plate of hors d'oeuvres in the other. "Oh, good you are here, Sienna," she said. "Here, take my clutch. It clashes with my drink." She tossed her beaded bag onto the pile of coats in my arms. I stood there buried under their belongings. I looked ridiculous. A woman in a bad dress holding a mountain of coats and bags, while her husband flirted with his sister-in-law. A woman in a silver dress looked at me, then looked at Andre. "Is this your assistant?" she asked, polite but confused. Andre laughed nervously. Something like that. This is Sienna. We try to help her out where we can. She is a bit slow, but she is loyal. Brittany chimed in, her eyes gleaming with malice. She is actually Andre's wife. Can you believe it? It is a charity case, really. He saved her from a very bad situation. The woman looked uncomfortable. She took a step back. Oh, I see. How kind of you. I didn't say a word. I just tightened my grip on the coat. I was recording every word in my mind. Every insult was fuel. Every laugh was a debt they would pay back with interest. Let's go meet Mr. Ramirez, Andre said, grabbing Brittany's elbow. He is over by the bar. Sienna, stay here, guard our things, and don't eat all the shrimp. They walked away, leaving me standing alone near the entrance. I felt the eyes of strangers on me, pitying eyes, mocking eyes. I waited 10 minutes. Then I saw them coming back. Mr. Ramirez was with them. Mr. Ramirez looked bored. He was scanning the room, clearly looking for someone else. When he saw me holding the coats, his eyes widened slightly. He recognized me from the dinner, but he didn't say anything. He was a smart man. He knew a poker face when he saw one. Andre was drunk on power and expensive scotch. He wanted to show off one last time. Mr. Ramirez, Andre boomed. I want to assure you that with the new property acquisition today, my company is ready to handle your entire North American logistics. Mr. Ramirez nodded slowly. We will see Andre. The night is young. Brittany decided she needed the spotlight back. She twirled her red dress. Mr. Ramirez, you must come to our after party. It is going to be exclusive. Only the winners are invited. She reached out to grab another glass of wine from a passing waiter, but she was clumsy. Or maybe she was precise. She spun around and bumped hard into me. The red wine in her glass launched out of the flute. It didn't hit the floor. It hit me. Specifically, it hit the front of the black dress right over my chest. The cold liquid soaked through the fabric instantly. The dark stain spread like a gunshot wound. "Oh my God!" Brittany shrieked, putting her hand over her mouth. The music seemed to stop. People turned to look. Sienna. "Look what you did!" Brittany yelled. "You bumped into me. I hadn't moved an inch. I was still holding the coats." Andre stepped forward, his face purple with rage. "Jesus Christ, Sienna, can you not stand still? You are a walking disaster. Look at you. You are soaking wet. You look like a drowned rat." I stood there, the wine dripping down the front of the dress onto the floor. "I am sorry," I said, my voice flat. "Sorry doesn't fix the carpet," Andre hissed. "Go clean yourself up. In fact, just get out. Go wait in the car. You are embarrassing me." He grabbed his coat from my arms, not caring that he got wine on his hands. "Give me that. Get out." Brittany was smirking behind her hand. "Maybe ask the kitchen staff for a rag," she whispered loud enough for the circle of people to hear. "They are used to cleaning up messes." Mr. Ramirez looked at me. There was a question in his eyes. "Are you going to take this?" I looked at Andre. Then I looked at Brittany. I smiled. A real terrifying smile. "You are right, Andre," I said. "I should go change. I wouldn't want to ruin the big announcement." I turned and walked away. I heard Brittany laugh behind me. Finally, the trash is taking itself out. I walked through the crowd head high, not caring about the wine stain. I wasn't walking toward the exit. I was walking toward the elevators. I pressed the button for the penthouse floor. The doors closed, shutting out the noise of the party. The silence of the elevator was beautiful. I watched the numbers climb. 10, 20, 30, 40. The doors opened. Henri was waiting. He held a garment bag in his hands. Behind him, 2 women from my styling team were waiting with a makeup kit and a jewelry case. "Is it time?" Madame Henri asked. I unzipped the back of the soggy black dress. I let it fall to the floor in a wet heap. I stepped out of it, kicking it aside with my heel. Underneath, I was wearing a silk slip. "Yes, Henri," I said. "Burn that dress." I walked into the suite. I sat in the chair. The makeup artist moved fast, wiping away the plain foundation I had worn to look tired. She applied a bold red lip. She swept gold shimmer across my eyelids. She took the pins out of my hair, letting it cascade down my back in thick, glossy waves. Then the dress. It was a custom Givenchy, deep emerald green silk that looked like liquid money. It was structured at the bodice strapless and flowed into a train that commanded space. It was the kind of dress you didn't just wear. It was a dress you weaponized. I stepped into it. The silk hugged my curves perfectly. Henri opened the jewelry case. Inside lay the Washington diamonds, my grandmother's necklace, a cascade of flawless white diamonds that ended in a 10-carat emerald pendant. It had been in a vault for 20 years. I clasped it around my neck. The weight of it felt like armor. I looked in the mirror. The admin was gone. The victim was gone. The wife was gone. The CEO had arrived. I turned to Henri. Let's go. The ballroom had reached peak volume. The alcohol was flowing and the noise was deafening. But as the double doors at the top of the grand staircase opened, a hush began to ripple through the room. It started near the stairs and spread outward like a wave. People stopped talking. People stopped drinking. Heads turned. I stood at the top of the marble staircase. The light from the crystal chandeliers caught the diamonds around my neck, sending fractures of light shooting across the room. The emerald dress glowed against my skin. I didn't look down. I looked straight ahead. I took the first step. My heels clicked on the marble, a sharp, rhythmic sound that echoed in the sudden silence. Andre was standing near the stage, his back to the stairs. He was busy pouring champagne for Brittany. He didn't notice the silence at first. Then Brittany poked him. "Andre, look," she whispered, pointing. Andre turned around. He squinted against the lights. He saw a woman descending the stairs, a woman who looked like a queen, a woman who looked like she owned the air everyone else was breathing. He didn't recognize me. He didn't recognize the curve of my waist because he hadn't touched me in years. He didn't recognize my hair because he never looked at me. He didn't recognize the power because he thought I had none. He nudged Brittany, his eyes wide with lust. "Damn!" he whispered, his voice carrying in the quiet room. "Who is that?" "That is the finest woman I have ever seen." Brittany frowned, jealous instantly. "I don't know. Probably some model Ramirez hired. She looks high maintenance." Andre couldn't take his eyes off me. He licked his lips. "I need to meet her. Maybe I can introduce myself as the new owner of the building." I reached the bottom of the stairs. The crowd parted for me. Like the Red Sea. I walked straight toward the stage. I walked past Andre. I was close enough that my perfume hit him. It was a custom scent. Jasmine and oud. He inhaled deeply, closing his eyes for a second. He reached out a hand as I passed, trying to get my attention. "Excuse me, miss," he said, putting on his best charm voice. "I don't believe we have met. I am Andre Washington." I didn't stop. I didn't look at him. I kept walking, my eyes fixed on Mr. Ramirez, who was standing at the podium holding the microphone. Mr. Ramirez saw me. He smiled. A genuine, respectful smile. He stepped back from the microphone, gesturing for me to come up. Andre frowned, confused. He watched me walk up the steps to the stage. He watched me stand next to the billionaire. He watched me turn around and face the crowd. The lights hit my face, and for the first time, Andre really looked. His jaw dropped. The champagne glass slipped from his fingers. It hit the floor and shattered. The sound of the breaking glass was the only sound in the room. He mouthed one word. "Sienna." I looked down at him from the stage. I looked at the fear dawning in his eyes. I leaned into the microphone. My voice boomed through the speakers, calm and deadly. "Good evening, everyone." I paused, letting the tension build until it was suffocating. "My name is Sienna Washington, and I have a few announcements to make." The spotlight hit Mr. Ramirez as he stood at the center of the stage. The room fell into a respectful silence, the kind of silence that money buys. I stood just to the side, hidden in the shadows of the velvet curtains, watching the scene unfold, like a director watching the final act of a play. Andre was standing in the front row, right where he always needed to be. He was practically vibrating with anticipation. He had smoothed his hair back, adjusted his tie 3 times, and was currently whispering something into Brittany's ear. I could read his body language from 50 feet away. He was telling her that this was it. He was telling her that Mr. Ramirez was about to announce the partnership with Andre's firm. He was telling her that they were about to be rich. Mr. Ramirez tapped the microphone. The sound echoed through the ballroom. "Ladies and gentlemen," he began, his voice deep and commanding. "Thank you for joining us tonight. We are here to celebrate the future of global logistics. For months, I have been looking for a partner in the United States, a partner who understands that true power is not loud, it is silent. It is calculated. And it is resilient." Andre nudged Brittany with his elbow. He puffed out his chest. He took a half step forward, ready to accept the applause. He thought Mr. Ramirez was talking about him. He thought his loud, brash, arrogant style of business was what Mr. Ramirez admired. He was so wrong. "I have found that partner," Mr. Ramirez continued. "But I have also found something else. I have found the true owner of the company that has been quietly revolutionizing our industry. A leader who built Terra Logistics from a laptop in a kitchen while working a day job to support a family that did not appreciate her." Andre frowned. He stopped stepping forward. He whispered to Brittany, "What is he talking about? Terra Logistics is the rival firm. They are a ghost company. Nobody knows who runs it." Brittany shrugged, sipping her champagne. "Who cares? Just wait for him to say your name." Mr. Ramirez looked out over the crowd. His eyes scanned the room, passing over the senators, the CEOs, the celebrities. "It is my distinct honor," Mr. Ramirez said, raising his hand toward the side of the stage, "to introduce you to the chairman of Terra Logistics, the new owner of this very building, and the most formidable woman I have ever had the pleasure of knowing." Andre froze. "Woman," he mouthed. "Please welcome," Mr. Ramirez roared, his voice filling the room, "Mrs. Sienna Washington." The name hung in the air for a split second, suspended in time. Andre's head snapped up. He looked at the stage. He looked at Mr. Ramirez. He looked around the room, expecting to see a different Sienna, maybe a cousin, maybe a stranger with the same name. But then I stepped out of the shadows. The emerald dress caught the light. The Washington diamonds blazed around my neck like a collar of fire. I didn't rush. I took my time. I walked to the center of the stage with the slow, deliberate cadence of an executioner climbing the scaffold. The sound of my heels on the hardwood floor was amplified by the acoustics of the room. Click, click, click. I reached the microphone. Mr. Ramirez bowed to me. Actually bowed. He stepped aside, giving me the floor. I looked down into the crowd. I saw the exact moment Andre's brain short-circuited. His mouth fell open. His eyes bugged out of his head. He looked from me to the large screen behind me, which now displayed my name in 10-foot-tall gold letters. Sienna Washington, CEO. Brittany was standing next to him. She was holding a fresh glass of champagne. Her eyes traveled up my body. She saw the dress. She saw the diamonds. She saw the face of the woman she had called a maid 2 hours ago. Her hand went limp. The crystal flute slipped from her fingers. It hit the marble floor with a shatter that sounded like a gunshot. Crash. Champagne exploded over Andre's shoes. Shards of glass skittered across the floor. Normally, people would rush to help. Normally, there would be a commotion. But nobody moved. Nobody looked at the broken glass. Every single pair of eyes in that room was locked on me. I gripped the microphone stand. I didn't smile. I didn't wave. I looked directly at Andre. I locked eyes with him. I saw the confusion, the fear, and the denial swirling in his gaze. He was shaking his head slightly, mouthing the words, "No, this isn't real." I leaned into the mic. "My husband, Andre," I said, my voice smooth and amplified, "tells everyone who will listen that I am a simple woman. He tells his clients that I am uneducated. He tells his friends that I am a burden." I paused. The room was deathly quiet. But his favorite joke, I continued, keeping my eyes pinned on him, is that I am too stupid to learn a second language. He likes to insult me in Spanish right to my face because he thinks I only hear noise. I saw Andre swallow hard. His face was turning a sickly shade of gray. "Well," I said, tilting my head slightly, "let's see if he understands this." I switched. I didn't just speak Spanish. I unleashed it. I spoke with the rapid-fire, perfect Mexico City accent my grandmother had drilled into me during our summers in Coyoacán. "Andre, me llamaste estúpida. Me llamaste inútil. Dijiste que solo servía para decorar tu casa. Pero se te olvidó un pequeño detalle, mi amor. Andre, you called me stupid. You called me useless. You said I was only good for decorating your house. But you forgot one small detail, my love. The crowd gasped. A murmur of appreciation rippled through the room. They didn't need a translation to hear the authority, the venom, and the absolute command of the language. I continued, my voice rising. Mientras tú gastabas mi dinero en trajes baratos y mujeres baratas, yo estaba construyendo un imperio. Tú jugabas a las casitas y yo estaba comprando el tablero. While you were spending my money on cheap suits and cheap women, I was building an empire. You were playing house and I was buying the game board. I switched back to English. For those of you who don't speak Spanish, I just told my husband that while he was busy underestimating me, I was busy buying him. Andre took a step back. He looked like he was going to vomit. He grabbed Brittany's arm for support, but she pulled away from him, staring up at me with terror. But tonight isn't just about languages, I said, gesturing to the massive LED screen behind me. It is about business. And my husband loves business. He loves contracts. In fact, he signed a very important one with me this morning. I clicked the remote in my hand. The screen changed. The logo of Terra Logistics disappeared. In its place was a high-resolution scan of the document Andre had signed earlier that day, the one he thought was a deed transfer. I zoomed in on the paragraph he had been too busy texting Brittany to read. Ladies and gentlemen, I said, walking across the stage, this morning Andre tried to force me to sign over my home. He threatened to divorce me and leave me destitute if I didn't comply. He thought he was signing a quitclaim deed to steal my equity. I pointed at the screen. But because Andre is a man who doesn't read the fine print when he thinks he is winning, he didn't sign a deed. He signed this. I read the text on the screen aloud. Transfer of liability. The undersigned Andre Washington hereby agrees to assume full personal responsibility for the outstanding debt obligations of Terra Holdings LLC in the amount of $5 million. A collective gasp went through the room. $5 million. I looked at Andre. He was patting his chest, searching for his phone, searching for the papers in his briefcase. He pulled out the folder he had been guarding all night. He ripped it open. He stared at the document in his hands. He read it. I saw the moment the reality hit him. His knees actually buckled. He grabbed the back of a chair to stay upright. He looked up at me, his eyes pleading. Sienna, no. Yes, Andre, I said, cold as ice. You don't own my house. You own my bad debt. You are personally liable, which means the bank is going to come for everything. Your car, your savings, your future earnings. But wait, I said, holding up a hand. There is more. Brittany started to back away. She tried to blend into the crowd. She saw the ship sinking and she was ready to swim. Not so fast, Brittany, I said into the mic. The spotlight swung and hit her. She froze like a deer in headlights. My sister-in-law, everyone I introduced her. The woman who poured wine on me earlier tonight because she thought I was a maid. The woman who has been spending my mother's retirement money on Chanel bags. Brittany shook her head frantically. Don't do this, she mouthed. I clicked the remote again. The document on the screen disappeared. A video file began to play. It was grainy black and white footage, but the timestamp was clear. Last night. 11:42 p.m. The camera angle was from the parking lot of the Golden Stay Motel. The image showed Andre's Mercedes pulling in. It showed Kevin's Range Rover pulling in next to it. But Kevin wasn't driving. Brittany was. The video showed them getting out of the cars. It showed Andre grabbing Brittany's waist. It showed them kissing passionately against the door of room 104. It showed them laughing. Then the audio from my parabolic microphone played over the speakers. It was clear. It was undeniable. Brittany's voice, Kevin is spineless. I am taking half his 401k and leaving him with the cat. Andre's voice, Sienna is dumb. She is just a stepping stone. The crowd erupted. The shock was visceral. People turned to look at them with pure disgust. Andre covered his face with his hands. Brittany was sobbing now, mascara running down her face, shaking her head as if denying the video playing 10 feet high behind me. I signaled for the video to stop. I walked to the edge of the stage. I looked down at the two people who had tried to break me. They looked so small now. So pathetic. Andre, I said softly. My voice carried through the silent room. He looked up. He was crying. Real tears this time. As the owner of this building and the majority shareholder of the firm you work for, I have one last piece of administrative business. I waited. I let the words hang there. You're fired. Andre flinched as if I had slapped him. Security, I said, gesturing to the guards. Please escort Mr. Washington off the premises and make sure to collect his company credit card. I believe he is maxed out. 2 large guards moved in on Andre. They grabbed him by the arms. He didn't fight. He was too broken. He just let them drag him backward, his expensive shoes dragging on the floor. Sienna, he screamed a desperate wail. Sienna, please, I love you. I didn't blink. I turned my eyes to Brittany. She was standing alone. The crowd had moved away from her, creating a circle of isolation. She looked around for an exit, for a friend, for anyone. Brittany, I said. She looked up at me, trembling. You don't have to worry about walking home or taking an Uber. I pointed to a table near the back. Table number 9. A spotlight hit the table. Sitting there wearing a sharp black tuxedo, looking more handsome and dignified than I had ever seen him, was Kevin. He wasn't crying. He was sitting tall. He was holding a glass of whiskey in one hand and a thick manila envelope in the other. Brittany gasped. Kevin. Kevin stood up. He didn't look at her with love. He looked at her with the cold indifference of a man who has seen the truth. He picked up the envelope. He walked toward her. The crowd parted for him. He stopped 3 feet away from her. Kevin, baby Brittany stammered, reaching out a hand. It's not what it looks like. That video, it's fake. It's AI. Sienna made it up. Kevin didn't speak. He just threw the envelope at her feet. It landed with a heavy thud. What is this? Brittany whispered. Kevin looked her in the eye. Divorce papers, Kevin said. His voice was loud and steady. And an eviction notice. I changed the locks an hour ago, and I canceled your credit cards. Brittany stared at him. But where will I go? Kevin shrugged. I hear the Golden Stay Motel has vacancies. He turned his back on her and walked away. He walked straight toward the stage. He walked toward me. The crowd burst into applause. It started slow, then grew into a roar. They were cheering for Kevin. They were cheering for justice. I watched Brittany standing there, surrounded by the ruins of her life. The security guards came back for her. Ma'am, the guard said, you need to leave. She looked at me one last time. Her eyes were filled with hate, but mostly they were filled with regret. I didn't feel sorry for her. I felt nothing. I turned back to the microphone. I looked at Mr. Ramirez. He was smiling, clapping his hands. I looked at the crowd. Thank you, I said. Now, if you will excuse me, I have a company to run. I dropped the mic. It hit the stage with a thud that signaled the end of the show. I turned and walked off the stage, the emerald train of my dress following me like a green river. I didn't look back at the mess on the floor. I walked toward the future. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't walking in anyone's shadow. I was the sun. The silence that followed my departure from the stage was short-lived. It was shattered by the chaotic symphony of justice being served. I stood in the wings watching the security team descend on Andre and Brittany. They didn't treat them like guests anymore. They treated them like the trespassers they were. Get your hands off me! Andre screamed, struggling against the grip of a guard who was twice his size. Do you know who I am? I am the VP of Sales. This is a mistake. You are trespassing, sir. The guard said, his voice void of emotion. And you are causing a disturbance. Brittany was faring no better. She was trying to maintain her dignity, but it is hard to look dignified when you are being escorted out by your elbows while wearing a dress bought with stolen money. Kevin let go of me, she shrieked, looking back at her husband, who was still standing by table 9. Tell them to stop. Tell them I am your wife. Kevin didn't move. He just watched her go, taking a slow sip of his whiskey. The look on his face wasn't anger. It was the absolute zero of indifference. But the night wasn't done with Andre yet. As the guards dragged him toward the double doors, Kevin set his glass down. He walked calmly across the room, intercepting the security team. Wait, Kevin said, raising a hand. The guards paused. Andre looked at his brother, hope flooding his eyes. Kevin, tell them this is insane. Talk to Sienna. She will listen to you. Kevin looked at Andre. He looked at the brother he had idolized his whole life. The brother who had mocked him behind his back. The brother who had slept with his wife. Kevin didn't say a word. He pulled his arm back and delivered a right hook that connected squarely with Andre's jaw. The sound was sickeningly satisfying, a wet, heavy thud that echoed through the ballroom. Andre's head snapped back and his knees buckled. He would have fallen if the guards hadn't been holding him up. "That is for calling me spineless," Kevin said, calmly adjusting his cufflinks. "And for the cat." The crowd gasped, but then scattered applause broke out. They were witnessing a soap opera come to life, and they were loving every second of it. But the final blow didn't come from Kevin. It came from the main entrance. The doors burst open, and 4 officers in windbreakers walked in. On the back of their jackets in bold yellow letters was the word police. They weren't regular beat cops. They were from the Economic Crimes Unit. I had sent the forensic accounting file to them 3 hours ago. The file that showed Andre had been padding his expense reports and funneling company money into a personal offshore account for 2 years. "Mr. Andre Washington," one of the officers asked, stepping in front of the dazed and bleeding Andre. "Yes," Andre mumbled, blood trickling from his lip. "You are under arrest for corporate embezzlement, wire fraud, and grand larceny." Andre's eyes went wide. "Fraud? No. That is a mistake. I am the CEO. I just signed the papers." The officer pulled out a pair of handcuffs. "Turn around and place your hands behind your back." The click of the handcuffs was the final period on the sentence of Andre's career. Brittany watched in horror as they read him his rights. She tried to inch away to distance herself from the criminal. "Excuse me, ma'am," the second officer said, blocking her path. "Mrs. Brittany Washington." She froze. "Yes. We have a warrant for your arrest as well." "Me?" Brittany squeaked. "I didn't do anything." "Conspiracy to commit fraud and receipt of stolen funds," the officer listed. "We have the bank transfers from Mr. Washington's account to yours, and we have the audio confession recorded last night." Brittany screamed as the cuffs went on. "It was him. He made me do it. I am a victim. I watched them being led away." The flashbulbs popped. The crowd murmured. The titans of industry shook their heads. I turned away. I didn't need to see them get into the squad car. I knew where they were going. They were going to a place where designer suits and Chanel bags didn't matter. They were going to prison. I walked back to the dressing room where Henri was waiting with a glass of champagne. "To new beginnings," Madame Henri said, raising his glass. I took the glass. The bubbles danced on my tongue. "To cleaning house," I replied. 3 days later, the rain was coming down in sheets. It was a cold gray downpour that turned the sky the color of a bruise. I stood at the window of my study looking down at the front gate of the mansion that was legally mine. The gate buzzer had been ringing for 10 minutes. I knew who it was. I had seen him on the security camera. It was Andre. He had made bail, or rather his parents had put up their retirement home to bail him out. He looked nothing like the man who had stood on that stage. He was wearing a hoodie that was soaked through. His hair was matted to his forehead. His lip was still swollen from Kevin's punch. He was shivering. I pressed the intercom button. "What do you want, Andre?" My voice was amplified through the speaker at the gate. He jumped, looking up at the camera. "Sienna, please, let me in. It is freezing out here. Go away, Andre. You are trespassing." "Baby, please just listen to me. I made a mistake. A horrible mistake." He pressed his face against the iron bars of the gate water streaming down his cheeks, mixing with his tears. "It wasn't me, Sienna. It was Brittany. She seduced me. She manipulated me. You know how I am. I am weak when it comes to family. She told me she would ruin me if I didn't help her. I listened to him. The lies were so pathetic they were almost funny. He was throwing his partner in crime under the bus to save his own skin. He was a rat until the very end." "I didn't mean any of those things I said," Andre sobbed. "I love you. You are my wife. We can fix this. I will sign a postnup. I will do anything. Just don't let me go to prison alone. Don't let me lose you." He fell to his knees in the mud. "I built you, Sienna. Remember, I took care of you when you had nothing. You owe me a chance to explain." I stepped away from the window. "He built me." "No, he didn't build me. He buried me. But he forgot that I was a seed. I grabbed my purse. I walked downstairs. Marcus was waiting by the front door holding an umbrella. "Is he still there?" Marcus asked. "Yes. Bring the car around. I'm going out." "You want to talk to him?" Marcus asked, surprised. "No. I want to say goodbye." The black Bentley pulled up to the front steps. Marcus opened the door for me. I slid into the cream leather interior. The car smelled of new money and peace. "Drive to the gate, Marcus," and stop right in front of him. The car rolled down the long driveway. The rain drummed rhythmically on the roof. We reached the gate. Andre scrambled to his feet when he saw the headlights. He thought I was coming to rescue him. He thought I was coming to take him back. He waved his arms. "Sienna, thank God." The gate opened slowly. The Bentley pulled forward and stopped inches from where he stood. Andre rushed to the window. He put his hands on the glass, leaving muddy smears. Sienna opened the door. "Let me in." I pressed the button. The tinted window lowered exactly 2 centimeters, just enough for a sliver of air, just enough to hear him, but not enough for him to touch me. "Sienna, baby, thank you. I knew you would forgive me. We can start over. We can be a power couple. With your money and my connections, we can rule this city." I looked at him through the crack. I looked at the desperation. I looked at the man who had drained my mother's roof fund without blinking. I didn't say a word. I reached into the center console. I pulled out a single silver quarter, 25 cents. I held it up to the crack in the window. Andre stopped talking. He stared at the coin. "What is that?" he whispered, confused. I dropped the coin through the crack. It hit the wet pavement with a tiny metallic ping. It landed in a puddle of mud right next to his shoe. "Take it, Andre," I said, my voice muffled by the glass but clear enough to cut bone. "Take what?" he asked, his voice trembling. "The bus fare," I said. "Where am I going?" he asked, tears welling up again. "To bankruptcy court," I replied. "Don't be late. The judge hates it when you are late." I pressed the button. The window rolled up, sealing me back in my sanctuary. "Drive, Marcus." Andre screamed something, but I couldn't hear him. I didn't want to hear him. I watched him in the side mirror as we drove away. He was standing in the rain, staring down at the quarter in the mud. A small, shrinking figure in the rearview mirror of my life. He was the past, and I never looked back at the past. The highway stretched out before me, wide and open. The rain was stopping, breaking apart to reveal the golden light of the afternoon sun. I felt lighter. The weight of the secrets, the weight of the deception, the weight of the abuse was gone. I picked up my phone. I dialed the only number that mattered. It rang twice. "Hello." The voice was warm and familiar. It was my mother. She sounded tired. She was probably worrying about how to pay for the roof repairs since the money had vanished. "Mom, it is me. Sienna, baby. How are you? I have been worried. You haven't called in days. Is everything okay with Andre?" I smiled, a real, genuine smile that reached my eyes. "Andre is gone, Mom. He won't be bothering us ever again." "What do you mean, gone? Did you leave him?" "Yes. And I took something with me." I paused, watching the skyline of the city pass by. "Mom, do you remember the old house? The one on Elm Street, the one Grandma had to sell when she got sick?" "Of course I remember it, baby. That was our home. I dream about that front porch every day." "Why?" "Well, stop dreaming, Mom. I bought it back." Silence on the other end. Then a gasp. "What? Sienna, what are you saying?" "I bought it back, Mom. I signed the papers this morning. The contractors are already there. They are fixing the roof. They are repainting the walls that pale yellow you like." "Sienna, where did you get the money?" "Don't worry about the money, Mom. Let's just say I got a severance package from a very bad job." I heard her start to cry. Happy tears. The kind of tears that wash away years of struggle. "Pack your bags, Mom. I am coming to pick you up. We are going home." I hung up the phone. I looked out at the world. It looked different now. It looked like mine. I had been a maid. I had been an admin. I had been a victim. But I was never those things. Those were just costumes. Underneath it all, I was always a queen, waiting for her crown. And now that I had it, I wasn't going to let anyone tilt it ever again. I looked into the rearview mirror one last time, not at Andre, but at myself. If you have ever felt like you were holding up the sky for people who wouldn't even hold an umbrella for you, hit that like button. If you have ever been the secret weapon in a war nobody knew you were fighting, subscribe to this channel. Because this isn't just my story, it is yours. We are the ones they underestimate. We are the ones they use. But as Andre found out, we are also the ones who sign the checks. My name is Sienna Washington, and class is dismissed. Sienna's journey is a profound testament to the power of silence and the necessity of self-preservation. For years, she allowed herself to be diminished, playing the role of the dutiful, simple wife to protect a fragile male ego. But her story teaches us a brutal truth: shrinking yourself to fit someone else's insecurities never works. It only gives them more room to step on you. Andre and Brittany mistook Sienna's silence for stupidity and her kindness for weakness. They learned too late that the quietest person in the room is often the one observing, calculating, and holding the keys to the castle. The most critical lesson here is about financial sovereignty. In a world where financial abuse is a common tool of control, Sienna's secret success wasn't just a safety net. It was her sword. She proved that true power isn't about flashing credit cards, wearing designer labels, or shouting about your status. True power is having the resources to walk away when respect is no longer served. It is the quiet confidence of knowing you can survive and thrive without the people who claim to make you. Furthermore, this narrative challenges the traditional definition of loyalty. We are often taught to stand by family no matter what. But Sienna shows us that loyalty is a two-way street. When family becomes a source of theft, betrayal, and humiliation, the most heroic thing you can do is evict them from your life. Walking away wasn't an act of cruelty. It was an act of radical self-love. She didn't just reclaim her house, she reclaimed her dignity. Now I want to hear from you. Have you ever had to play small to make someone else feel big, only to realize they never appreciated your sacrifice? Or have you ever had to cut off a family member to save your own peace? Let me know your story in the comments below. And if you believe that self-respect is the ultimate net worth, hit that like button and subscribe for more stories of justice served cold.